Good evening. This is Chippa Khan, and I welcome you all to Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Wednesday evening program, where we talk about things that we can talk about here that you probably can't talk about over the Thanksgiving table, or everybody will go home and keep talking about you. It's like, and how weird you are for
Was he related to us again?
year. But yeah, tonight I wanted to talk about energy imbalance. This is one of the things that we thought we might do a panel on at the conference, and I refused to drop it when we didn't have time to fit that one in. The energy imbalance is something that I've dealt with mostly as a healer. Many people know what Reiki is, and basically every cell in your body needs nutrients and it needs a certain amount of energy. And if you give it energy when it hasn't got some, it makes it a lot easier for it to heal things. That's wonderful. But sometimes there's too much energy and that's not good. And many young Reiki people will keep on pumping that energy in, which is not good for the person who you're trying to help. Part of what can create that is blockages, because your energy is supposed to move around your body, something like a dam in a river. And if it's not flowing, it can back up like behind a dam, but it can cause some damage. So, but there's that in bodies. There is the energy imbalances can cause strange effects, make you break, your watch will stop working or your computer glitches too much and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we're going to do. I specifically asked Arkenstone and Star Wolf and Griffin Brook to join us for this. It's going to be, they each have personal experiences with energy. I'm going to start out with Arkenstone because he has a book out that has a lot to do with working your energy. Magic, Mind, Emotion, and Body, the Praxis, Magic, No Woo, the How and Why book. And it's got a lot of exercises and things in it, and I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know if he's covered it directly. So I figured I could use this as a sneaky way of getting a jump on if you have that in your book, Arkenstone, maybe. Do you, or is that? I know you have a lot of cool stuff in there, some of which I've gotten to.
And mostly what that deals with is dealing with energy blockages, and there is an exercise based on the Qigong or Chinese 5 elements as far as balancing the internal elements in the body and learning what natural elements you have an affinity for to fit your body. And the thing is, not everybody's balance is the same. I mean, when you're talking about natural energy that you can have an affinity for. But that the book addresses that. It does not address balances of energy between overworld and underworld. That's constantly in our functioning. Some people are more balanced in overworld. Some people are more balanced in towards underworld. And my teaching is, and my teachers, we try to get into a balance. So it's finding that energy, clearing the blockages that are issues. If you have open channels like Griffin has, that could be a long-standing issue. So you're asking about that. Dealing with leaks, sometimes that's a whole matter of healing, and that's a observation issue. Other things about putting out too much energy, and sometimes I have an issue with, there are some witches who think that they're the only one that can project an aura 30 feet, and if you come in their space and project equally, they get miffed at anybody, God help you, has power of their own. So that's a power imbalance, or people have ego issues, but that's one thing. But we were talking here before we turn this on about it seems like the three of us also work with technical stuff. There were times I've been in bad moods, and the computers would have issues, and different switch gates and computers would fry up, and they'd have to get replaced. Hardware have to get replaced, or the bits get flipped in some sort of memory, and the system crashes, so we have to reboot them. And learning to control that is another thing. But the question, is it an imbalance or a matter of control? And that's something to be brought up, and I think we can all talk about that. And lastly, imbalance in rituals. I'm sure more than one of you have had to carry one or more element in a circle when people couldn't, or help carry and hold space for a priest or priestess, so that the circle can be balanced in energy, and actually hold space for deity as it may fit. And sometimes you can't do that. You got to let people fall and figure this stuff out on their own. And you were talking about crystals breaking. Yeah, I've burned out enough crystals myself. I've seen a lot of people do it. And I've known another person who he would break all clocks, all of them, not just stop them. They would just break. Didn't matter what they were. But otherwise, he was fairly healthy. But the energy balance energy is such a loose term. Energy, I think of what electrical stuff that we can flow through our fascia, and usually that's not electrons, that's protons. And you can burn out fascia just as much as you can, or you can have blocks in them. And then there's the astral energy that can actually cause blocks in the fascia or the chakras or what have you. It depends. Is it a physical block? Is it an astral block? And if it's way open, what's the physicality of it? I've healed a couple people with some of those issues, and some people it was more a blockage, and some of it was just outright damage that's beyond my control. That's the overview from my point of view.
I think that the control is probably as important as the imbalance part.
For me, it is.
Star Wolf?
Yes.
Star Wolf, I think that maybe you had your story about the streetlights.
Well, yeah, it used to be that you could track where I was by streetlights going out, as I would suck the energy out of them, and then 2 or 3 minutes later they would go on again. We still sometimes get that with Kathy, but she has chronic fatigue syndrome and energy issues of her own. Partially the reason I ended up doing a lot of this stuff, mostly to survive.
Are you generating more high frequency energy out? Because I had the same type of issue with when the lights were made out of mercury vapor or sulfur vapor, and they would kick out because they use high frequency charge to get them started and keep them.
I'm not sure what we have these days here in Connecticut. I know it's gotten easier since they got rid of those red tinged bulbs that they used to have.
Those are the sodium ones.
Yeah,
That was a characteristic color of the sodium lights.
yeah. They also used to trick the trees into thinking it was springtime,
Mm.
which of course throws off everybody's internal rhythms, and your body says, oh, it's spring, and it's still January.
Well, midwinter thaws don't help.
No.
Yeah,
Well, no, that just confuses things too.
yeah.
When you see the snowdrops coming up through a foot of snow.
I live in Connecticut. What else is new?
Mm.
Though we haven't had our first snow yet, though I understand some landed up in the northeast and northwest hills a couple of days ago when we were having rain.
Well, this is
Yeah.
Syracuse. We had 6 inches of snow on the ground yesterday morning.
Yeah,
So,
but you're in Syracuse. You're right in the path of the lake effect.
oh yeah, and this was this pixie dust kind of lightweight snow that I suppose if it had been any wetter, it would have been 2 inches of wet concrete, but I was happy enough to have snow I could brush off the car.
Yes.
Have you guys
But-
noticed or noticed from other people that some people feel like they're energetically cut off when it's raining, or more importantly, when it's snowing?
For me, snowstorms are some of my favorite times.
For
Likewise,
me, it's
rainstorms.
more a matter of feeling energetically cut off when it's dark. And having picked up some points, I think from Starwolf in discussion of what my element actually is that, I'll go out and stand on the front porch, and if the sun's out, it's like I just stop and I just go and I look everywhere because it perks me right up. And I think that's kind of a side layer to the fundamental energy problems. But I know, of course, energy levels vary with time of days. And I have now, well, first of all, I figured out that my energy is generally at its lowest at and 12 hours after the time I was born. And in this case, I was born at 4:15 in the morning. The old Dr. Pepper thing of 10 to 4 actually makes sense. But there are so many layers to it. And we talk about, well, is it energy? Is it control? And I have to admit, in my case, I really don't know. All I know is that for as long as I can remember, I've been tired. I've lacked ambition. And my emotions didn't always come out. Well, doesn't that sound like 1, 2, 3? Once you get above that, things seem to be working, and the farther up you go, the better it works. You get up to the throat chakra, eloquence, articulate speech, intellectual power, and a deep interest in spirituality. But when you get down to the kind of things that get you out to hustle and get you a job and all of that, never mind getting a job, just getting out of bed, that's where it's always been a problem. And I'm talking about a long time here. So it's obviously something fairly fundamental to me. And I would dearly love to have any new angle on anything I can do about this.
Well, you sound, for me, enjoying the sun. That is what the Chinese would be yang energy. That is yang energy tends to innervate and expand and make yin energy more movable, but it also doesn't allow it to stick. Sun energy has a tendency to make yin energy dissipate if it isn't controlled or managed. And the exercises for that is learning how to do finding natural energy that you have an affinity for. And you probably have a hard time doing that because you focus on the light and the sun and what have you. And there's a lot of people that focus on yang energy, and they suffer the same way you do. They start having lethargy and whatnot, and it doesn't sound like you learn to be a vampire, because a lot of them learn how to feed off the yin energy off of people, and they keep it cycled with the yang energy, which it becomes addictive. Just getting astral energy in, it's learning how to go out in nature and reach out with your aura, and then you breathe out, and as you breathe in, you're sucking it in. But I do it opposite. As I breathe in, I expand, because I'm using my fascia and all that part of my body, and it's using yang energy to reach out as well. So it's like casting a net, and then I make myself stiff enough, and as I breathe out, I concentrate it down into my lower chakras. And actually, the dantian is where you store it. It's the Hindus call it the rit, and it's right within the Shushama. It's a central channel, but it's where this unique organ called the mesentery is, and that that the collection of fascia that holds all the innards together, and that's right above the sacral, and above the base. But once you're able to absorb that, and you just keep compressing it in, and you can use a big yoga breath. You use your lungs as well, and down in, and that you could suck the life out of a room. Well, if you're like me, I could do it in a half a breath. I try to avoid that. I literally try.
Well, no, I do not want to live at the expense of others, except to the degree that others, whether they be trees or people or whatever, are willing to give energy. But it makes me think so much about a place we lived in New Hampshire, where we rented this little mother-in-law house from a father of a friend of mine. And one of his deals was, well, you got a fireplace. If you want firewood, tidy up this part of the woods along the road and keep all the firewood you take. And some of my happiest moments were out there with a Vermont cart, an axe, and a bow saw. Nothing more complicated than that, and gathering firewood. And it was like being immersed in all of this natural green energy. And
then you find,
and then I get stuck in places where I can't even go cut the weeds.
Yeah.
And I grew up, my father built the house, him and his friends built the house I grew up in. So I always assumed every small child had a shop full of tools to work with. And I always loved working most with wood and leather. And I think I've lost something by having lost access to that.
Well,
go ahead, Starwell.
At least as far as access, you might want to look up and see if there's an available maker space in near you, and that would probably give you access to the necessary supplies.
Oh, he has tools. And we actually still have one of the Tandy leathers that exists in this country.
Yeah, I've got one not far from me either of those two.
But this, there's a stunning maker space near downtown Syracuse. But then we get into the business.
Yeah, I don't think it's there anymore.
Well, there used to be.
Yeah.
Point is, though, now we're talking logistics.
Yeah.
Do you have the money for a membership? Do you have the energy to get there?
Right.
I want to be able to walk into another room to do what I'm doing.
And if we arrange things right, we probably can set that up for you.
Right. So that's kind of on hold. But I guess the really more important question for me is, I think, Arkenstone, that you have actually pretty well diagnosed the situation here. So what do we do about it?
Well,
I'd start simple. Red stones, jasper, carnelian,
garnet,
ruby. things that will, or even black stones, such as tourmaline, obsidian, or black onyx.
Okay.
You know, start by supporting your root chakra. Go from there.
And I know I've got garnets, and I haven't done a lot with stones in a long time. And we did go through an exercise a month or so ago of digging them all out of their hiding places. And yeah,
We hadn't found them all yet.
No, the concept of the red, orange, and yellow stones for the bottom three chakras are very important. So you've got garnet and ruby are the primordial firsts, and then carnelian, and
Red
then you go
jasper.
up to red jasper, and then you go up to pure citrine, and now you're
if you can
actually
find
into
it.
the, well,
Citrine's a bit on the expensive side these days. The real stuff.
Yes.
The cooked amethyst should work, but
Are you going to pull out the big piece, Bill?
Yeah, I am about to pull out the big piece.
Part of the good thing here is that we've had stones that we acquired a couple decades ago.
Well, I'd also suggest sticking them under the mattress so that when you sleep, you're basically, it's one spot you know you will always be.
Yeah. Well,
that's a nice citrine point.
Yeah, we've had that ever since Heart Song Gifts.
Ever since Heart Song, this was one of the things we got there, or from New Hampshire Crystal. And
that's true.
This is the real McCoy. So we have some incredibly powerful stones, which are powerful because we bought them in our innocence back when the real thing was still available easily.
After several moves while becoming disabled, we have lost track of where they're packed. We have not been able to get organized with them again. We're working on coming out of that pit a bit.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we're back trying to find all the stones. You know, we got like buckets of tumble stones and all of that. And at Heart Song, we sold these little chakra kits where you get a little folded up pamphlet that told you what stones associate generally with which chakras. And then you got a small piece of each stone. And
I've got a couple of those kicking around. I keep them for, I've got one where all the stones are nice little cubes. I got it from one of those kits they used to sell by the cash registers at Borders and Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I do, from my point of view, and I can be wrong. Stones are great in a sense that they alter your personal frequencies to a frequency that is closer to the frequency you want. In other words, if it's zooting, the thing is, you have to have astral or chi to accumulate, and you use a stone in conjunction with, if you like to work with wood, get a wood. Fruit woods, for example, apples, pears, olive,
cherry.
You know, they have resin in it that actually allows the yin energy to actually flow along it. So you could, point it at things and try to use it to help scoop the type of energy you want, and use the stone to help kind of focus.
Right.
If you go to a place that you like and it feels good to you, that's natural, you don't have to go to it all the time. The trick I found is, if you can work to remember emotionally that memory, that's an energetic signature. If you can,
the experience of it,
you can feel it. You learn to emote it, so that you actually draw that space to you. And it's like an invoking the genie loci, the spirit of a place, and then be able to draw that energy to you. and you literally just have to work it into your body. A little muscular action. That's a healing activity. It'll innervate the stone, and it'll also help drive that energy down into your lower abdomen by just thinking your body is a pump and just squeezing it down and then tightening it up. Now, learning how to spin and compress that energy makes it substantial and last longer. Because I do an exercise where it's like, yeah, I can take my fingers like this and I strengthen the muscles of my arm, and people can feel the yang energy. Okay. It goes away as soon as I stop.
Yeah.
But if I learn to pull up the yin energy and I twist it and compress it,
Blend them.
Yeah, well, it's more compressing and twisting it. In other words, it makes it self-reference. I can take that blob, set it on your hand, and then you can feel it sit there. But the thing, it only lasts as long, dependent on the light. And if it's under fluorescent light, it goes away really quick. So it's a matter of learning to take it and absorb it and get it inside where it's darker, so it actually will stay with you.
Well, that's one of the interesting things there about working with stones, and it reminds me of an old principle I learned that goes all the way back to the earliest days of role-playing games. And that's the idea of the material component. And it has been, I've seen this amplified everywhere else, that the entire purpose of something like, well, let's just take our little citrine point. It's a material focus. The purpose is to focus the magician's energy and intent. And with the right material component, like a stone that resonates to the frequency of what you want to do, then that amplifies what you're trying to do and makes it more effective. So it's something I need to remember. And I said, you're talking about being in, I could find myself out somewhere like maybe in a park or in the real woods or something, and I'm feeling really great about it. And maybe I'll just look around for a piece of wood to make a wand out of, for instance. Because I remember a lot of years ago, I was still living in Milford, New Hampshire, and this was before we got married. I had a walking stick that I had made years previously, and I would walk through the woods down the railroad tracks to work because it was close enough to do, and I was young and fit enough to do it. One day I reached up to smack some ice off a branch in front of me, and my stick split to pieces. So I just kept the pieces for a while, and then one day when it just felt right, I went back out into the same part of the woods and I asked for a new staff. And as I turned around scanning the area, suddenly I saw this little sapling standing there like it was the only tree in the world. So I cut that down and I cut it to the right length, and then I left it in the back of my truck for 2 years to season. And I think I still have that stick. So yeah, there's energy, and I realized now in a more organized way how I interacted with that energy. Back then it was a lot more intuitive. But I still want to find out what I can do. You know,
or what I can do.
Or what you can do. Yeah, you're very powerful in a different way than I am. But the idea is I really need to figure out some way, because it sounds like from what Arkenstone is saying, is that the imbalance is not necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not necessarily that I'm not getting the energy into the lower chakras, but they're not connected properly with the rest of me.
At that point, you might want to look at also at adding a green stone or something to bridge between the upper and the lower chakras.
Right, right. Well, a healing stone, one of the heart stones.
Has both red and green.
What I'm saying is that that as much as I'm not into sexual duality and magic, the concept, but for
I'm
lack,
asexual, so sexual duality doesn't come into it much.
for the lack of better terms,
Mm-hmm.
yang and yin type of energy, not just
Okay.
flavor
Gotcha.
of it, not just the color, not just
Mhm.
the thing of it. Yang tends to be more like electromagnetic. Yin
Mhm.
tends to be substantive. It's more spirit, astral. And the
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
what I'm suggesting is using your natural ability with yang energy, which seems like that is your focus and the way you do things and the way you interact with things. It's learning to accumulate yin for you and in you, and it's actually sensing it and drawing it into you, and making sure that it fits with you. And you'll know fairly quick, because as soon as you do, you'll find that you'll light right up and you'll warm things right up. Or if you compress it, it'll feel denser. It'll feel almost like a liquid. You pull it, you almost feels like a liquid, and you use your body to help draw it in as you're focusing with your intent and your focus.
All right, so I need to use my yang energy to draw and integrate yin energy into all of me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
well, that's an angle I never thought of. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Star Wolf uses stones as a focus. Yeah, so so yeah, and I look at stones like different type of resistors, different type of rheostats. They all function with electricity, but when it comes to actual doing the work, you need the crystal or the you need a piece of wood or iron to actually wrap a coil, the coil around it, and have it do something.
Yeah, and iron metal has always been right behind wood and leather.
And we still have some chunks of elm that we harvested here in Syracuse. So
that's true.
Some branches and such.
But I'm suddenly,
I don't know if that's
a
good wood for that, but
I'm suddenly looking at a wand with a resistor color code on it. But that
okay, that works.
I find iron drains astral. So does
that's historic. Iron has been used as it's the ultimate counter magical metal, unless it's been properly prepared.
Right, and cold iron is definitely, if you want to lock up a mage, you put them in cold iron handcuffs.
Some of the weirder stainless steels we have today, like non-magnetic stainless, doesn't seem to work, but
right. Now we're talking about the purer forms, and some of the alloys we make today with like 5 or 6 or 7 different components. Lord knows what their properties are. But
mostly the only one I'm familiar with is something they use to line rifle barrels, stuff called stellite.
Oh, stellite, which is also used to make the valves in large trucks, because it's one of the few alloys that holds its shape well when red hot.
That's the whole reason they use it as barrel linings.
Right.
You can run a weapon on full auto for 3 times the time you can with a regular steel barrel.
Right. And because
plus they clean easier.
Is that got tungsten in it?
I think so. I'm not quite sure what the chemical composition of stellite is. I'm more interested in the practical applications than the actual combinations. It was very big. I remember when the first stellite line barrels were coming out.
Are they still making them like that?
I'm not sure. You've got to understand, we have no firearms in the house because Kathy, well, we have no real need for them. And if I can't make a blade out of it, I'm not really interested in it.
Right.
And stellite holds a really crappy edge. I had one friend who tried to make a stellite knife blade and made really good brass.
Well, according to what I just looked at, stellite is, let's see, generally a cobalt chromium steel alloy with cobalt and molybdenum as minor add-ons. Oh, it's pretty
With tungsten
Yeah.
or molybdenum. I'm looking at the same article as you are.
Yep. Tungsten or molybdenum.
Mhm.
So
so have you any of you have ever had to deal with in a ceremonial or a group situation where you felt it necessary to bolster people's different roles?
No, thankfully, I'm surrounded by a bunch of fairly competent practitioners.
And Bill and I have been short of opportunities to do anything in a group context with anyone.
right, so we really don't have a lot of experience there. I mean,
I don't know if anyone else might have.
Our main problems we tend to be, the various groups I work with tend to be stretched a little thin because they don't necessarily have enough people for everybody to have just one function.
Oh, right. The too many hats problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, that's fairly normal in groups these days.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. The one group I found locally so far, it has members of all ages, but the most dominant ones seem to be the pretty young things who make the calendar every year.
Well,
so we haven't been able to find any occasions to be participants in anything yet.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I really, I don't make knives, much less make use gun barrels.
But you were married to somebody who did.
Oh, yes. But I'm just trying to bring it back to what would be more immediately useful for most people. You had said, you had mentioned how someone with chronic fatigue might be sucking energy out of the environment. And I was wondering if that might happen to a lot of people with CFITs and ME and the other invisible illnesses that leave you exhausted.
Well, yeah, that's partially how I got into doing what I do. It was to develop things that would help keep Kathy up and running.
Mm.
And what are those? What things that might be useful for somebody else to try?
Like I said, you start with the basic ones, bolstering the chakras. One of the reasons we both got into Reiki is so we could work on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, my usual method is to start testing the chakras with a pendulum. That way I don't have to do, touching because, well, welcome to the 21st century.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how Jen does the diagnosis.
Yeah, a pendulum is such an underestimated diagnostic tool for dealing with energies.
Yes.
I mean, it's very good for determining not just the speed at which the chakra is rotating, but the direction, because I've run into a few people who've had either blocked ones, in which case the damn thing doesn't move at all,
right,
or worse, they're moving anti-clockwise.
Or the shape can be eccentric, the shape of the spin.
Yeah.
Right, it's not.
And my pendulum will show that if it is doing a wobbly circuit.
And it could be that the idea is that, my learning was that the chakras alternate rotation going up the chain. And if you have two of them that are spinning contrary to each other, it creates a lot of friction.
Okay.
I've never heard that part. It's always
been,
especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, they should be spinning clockwise.
Exactly.
And if they're spinning counterclockwise, something is wrong.
Right.
All right. Well, my take on that, my take on that is based on a book I no longer have, which Wheels of Life, A User's Guide to the Chakras by Anna D. Judith, which is a classic from decades ago.
Yeah,
And
the name is familiar. I don't think I've ever read it.
When I was working on you, I was always looking for clockwise spin on every chakra.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
that's an area of, of course, you get into the chakras, and after a lot of reading on it, I've come to the conclusion that what we consider to be a normal set of chakras is a totally modern invention, including the assignment of the Newtonian spectrum to the chakras, because the chakras have existed for many, many years. And I found references that said there are 5 chakras, there are 8 chakras, there are 14 chakras. They argue over which ones are the major chakras and the minor chakras.
Mm-hmm.
For all I know, they got into Republican and Democrat chakras, but I never found that. But the idea is that, and then of course you find the idea that, like Gandhi's little spinning wheel for making his own cotton
Charka.
was a chakra.
No,
A
charka.
chakra.
No,
Yeah, well,
don't get me started on him.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I'm
the
just
word was
talking-
not chakra, it was charka.
Yeah, well, there's that. I've seen it, chakra, sharka, chakra. The point is, it's a spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel.
That,
Yes.
The thing is, Griffin, you're right. I talked with somebody who was trained for 20 years in India with different groups and tantrics, and has association with other Hindu scholars, and the chakra system that we think of, that goes from red to violet, from base to crown, is a specific school that was brought over by the British. It was one of many schools, and it became descriptive instead of, it was a prescriptive aspect.
Right.
One of the concepts about the chakras is that each school would have different color combinations, different word combinations, different petals to the chakras with sounds, and how they relate to the body, different gods, different goddesses, and all. It's almost like the Tibetan thought gods. They are all there to design for the various conceptual aspects of what they believe the chakras would control. And the thing is, can they be different? Yes. I know I have a friend in South Carolina who does Reiki and was taught everything clockwise. I dealt with someone out here in Carrollton who did healing and chakra balances. It was like what Griffin, they go clock, counter, clock, counter, clock, counter.
Yes.
And trying to get the speeds lined up, and and then for the opposite sex, it would, instead of clock, it would go anti-clock, clock, anti-clock,
to make a balance.
Yes. So they would heal with that. Okay. And the chakra, and you can make up some, you can manage some of your physical other issues. Because if you have physical issues, or there's a lack of connection, let's say to your kidneys or to your liver, where all these chakras are supposed to eventually connect with your meridians and everything else. If they are messed up, you'll have physical issues as well. There's a exercise in my book that I created the exercise because I would go through the Chinese elements and the construction order, from the liver to the heart, to the spleen, to the lungs, to the kidneys, back to the liver. And you do 2 rounds of that, you get an inhale and exhale of each. And it actually, if you're using your stomach, you're actually squishing each organ and expanding it. So you're actually squishing out the toxins and bringing it up, but it's also acting like you're making it like a billows to actually pull and push astral in your body to get it balanced. I have since found out, like 5 years ago, that a long-standing school in China, they start with the bladder and they go to the kidneys, and then they start to round a couple times and then go back to the bladder. But it's and then you draw the energy back up into your dantian, your
See, that's part of the problem. Is I feel like I'm wallowing in an embarrassment of riches here, because I said chakras. Okay, I know what those are. Then I started studying them, and especially through Anna Diaz's book, and she pretty thoroughly covered the 97 different systems she knew about, or however many there were. And then so I said, I've got a specific problem. How do I take all this random stuff and arrange it into a coherent pattern? And you really talk to my particular issues, since they are all centered physically in the lower 3 chakras, because that 17 days I spent in the hospital in 2020 all revolved around kidney disease. And I have liver disease, and well, the bladder issues are a side effect of being old and having had kidney disease. But, the abdominal organs have been struggling for a long time. And, and then I look at the heart chakra. Okay, well, heart chakra, physically, I have had more stress, or echocardiograms, than you could ever count. And my heart is solid as a rock. So I look at things that work really well, and then I look at the parts that don't work at all. And it's always the lower body. I mean, I would like at least one time in my life to get back to where I don't feel like I'm walking around wearing lead pants all the time.
You mentioned you have kidney issues. Are you being checked for the amount of procrit?
Creatinine?
No, procrit.
Procrit?
And your hemoglobin.
Well,
there's a chemical in your kidney that actually helps your body generate more hemoglobin. You might want to check to see what your hemoglobin level is. And then there's this medicine called Retacrit that you can have to actually bolster, to help your body naturally bring up your hemoglobin. And that should bring up your energy levels.
That's interesting, because I vaguely remember hearing these things, and I did actually manifest some symptoms of anemia in low ferritin levels in my blood and such like. And these actually then may be related in a way I didn't realize.
Yes.
So that's worth
get iron, B12, and have your doctor check for the amount of hemoglobin and procrit that your kidneys are producing, and see if you can get the Retacrit.
He seems to be on top of that then, from his own angle, because he has prescribed the iron, he has prescribed the vitamins, and I would actually have to go back through a year worth of my test results to find out what they've actually tested for.
Bill, let's get this to something that everybody can.
Well, anyway, I answered the question.
Yeah.
And I'm about to answer your question about the book.
But there are having now talked a little bit about the having low energy and ways of building that up. Anybody got any suggestions for how to bleed off excess energy, or how to break through or gently open up blockages? Because blockages can be very dangerous.
Let's start with the simplest methods. If you can go outside, find a nice deeply rooted tree and hug that. That works for both lack of energy, also of too much energy. And if you have one in your house, I would suggest go downstairs, find the iron column that's supporting the center of your house, and hug that. That goes down about 10, 15 feet. It's a natural ground. I've always felt too much energy, hug a lolly column. It's steel, so it'll act as a grounding. That's what I usually do when people in our house have too much energy. It's go hug the lolly column.
What's a lolly column?
That's
sorry,
okay.
Our foundation is stone.
Okay, you won't have one. You're gonna have to.
Nope.
You are going to have to hug a tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live in a much more recent building with an I-beam in the center that supports it, and basically steel columns, 2 of them, because this is a relatively small house, in the basement that go down from that I-beam down through the foundation into the dirt. They act as supports. They keep the thing from,
Okay.
the house from basically caving in the middle. It was a fairly common construction technique from the late 40s through at least the 70s.
And her house was built 200 years before that, so.
Then there will be
hug
no
one
lolly
of-
columns.
Yeah, you could always go and hug the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it was made out of entire
The other
trees.
possibility would be find the iron pipe that is your sewer connection, assuming it's not been buried inside a wall. Because once again, that's a good chunk of black iron, and hang on to and just let the energy drain out of that. Especially get somebody to turn a faucet on upstairs, because then you'll also have running water.
So water is good.
Yeah, water is an excellent way to ground out energy. So take a shower and visualize the extra energy, whether it's positive or negative, swirling down the stairs or down the drain.
Stairs?
If you have an ability to get to a waterfall in the right type of weather, in the right part of year,
Oh, Lord, yes.
get under
Yeah,
there.
waterfall is wonderful, but
rocks
I'm
and
working on
water.
the idea that people might not have access to a waterfall, but they will have a shower,
Yeah.
or for that matter, do the dishes.
There you go. He likes doing
You
the
know,
dishes.
I was recently suggesting that people who get thrown off energetically by watching the news could help by taking a shower or a bath and letting the negative energy accumulated go that way.
Yeah, it's an excellent way to get rid of a negative energy charge, or for that matter, to get rid of the negative emotions from somebody. Literally using a song from South Pacific, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair. Works. You laugh, but it works. You just substitute whatever you need for man and do it. Thank you, Mitzi Gaynor.
Yeah, really.
Excellent form of sympathetic magic, actually.
Bingo. Give that lady a cigar, preferably a chocolate one.
How about using that that spray attachment on the sink and spraying the rude guest?
Use your pixie spray.
Yeah, I would actually suggest a some sort of atomizer filled with what, either Florida water or war water, or if necessary, Four Thieves vinegar, and if absolutely necessary, mix all 3 of them together and spray the environment.
Oh, well, the fluoridated water is much nicer to have afterwards. I mean,
Yeah,
I love the Four Thieves vinegar as a salad dressing, but I don't think I want the kitchen to smell like it.
Four Thieves vinegar can also be used as a substitute for pepper spray for dealing with people's negative energies.
I guess if you got enough garlic in.
No, actually, if you've got enough vinegar in it. Ever gotten vinegar in your eyes?
I think I would love to see a topic of these various sprays and waters sometime.
Yeah.
You're talking about a bath or a shower.
Yeah.
The salt scrubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're using a salt scrub. that helps break down loose astral in your body. If it's loose, you can do that. You can take a selenite wand, scrub it over your body, and help blow it away. Hematite.
Make sure the selenite has been properly sealed, or you're going to end up with all sorts of nasty little bits stuck in you.
Exactly.
And they tend to turn somewhat pussy if that happens.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Mhm.
I have found this wood called Pala di Chanta. Do I have that up there? I swore I did.
Oh, the things we have in our
Yeah.
private spaces.
It's a
Yeah.
Ready to be displayed at a moment's notice.
No, it's like the day I discovered I had yarn in every room of the house, including the bathroom.
It's a very dark, dense wood from Peru, and it works. They use it ritually to actually scrub off loose astral.
Does it by any chance ring like metal when you hit it with something?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
What's it
because
called again?
I've got some Brazilian ironwood that rings like that.
That's
I
it.
have to
Oh,
use
that's
it.
neat.
I have to. To cut it, you almost need a carbide blade if it's been allowed to season. I've seen it eat up regular saw blades. It's good stuff.
That your
I
books
have
there,
a-
Arkenstone?
It bothers me that it's not right available for me to grab because I thought it was right on my altar.
Mm.
Now it's like, okay, another magical item that it happened to disappear. So
Well,
I
If
can't
it's
find
the
any
stuff
of
I
my
thi-
pendulums.
Yeah.
if
Now-
necessary, use your Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And we have a lovely quartz point left over from a
Yeah.
car charm that's already wire wrapped and would make a splendid pendulum. But
I will not use
Yeah.
it. It was in a car accident with us.
is that the one from
dump energy into crystals, they'll crack. They'll
Yeah.
end up
well,
shattering.
this one never did. Maybe I'll just give it a long bath in the quartz bowl.
Our car
Yeah.
was totaled. My hip socket was cracked.
I smashed my head hard enough to have amnesia, so it was not a fun day.
Yeah, I would definitely get that crystal cleansed as quickly as possible.
It was 1999,
Well,
So it's been a while.
and I wanted
Yeah,
to
It's
but-
been a while.
I wanted to bury it in the woods, but he didn't agree.
Well, we'll
Anyway.
see.
Sounds a little
Let's start
hostile to the trees. But
I'd
Yeah.
start with a
That
prolonged
was-
soak in in salt water and go from there.
Mm.
Mm.
If it's quartz, if it's like a citrine or not a citrine, a calcite or a selenite, all you'll end up with is hard water.
Yeah, it's quartz
Mhm.
with wire and additional beads, and we should disassemble it and
Yeah.
break
Well,
the
unfortunately,
energy.
there are no pixies in our house to blame because, well, this house is rather well sealed.
well, I see that we're getting up to, we've used an hour. It's been fascinating. This is the kind of conversation I'd like to have in my living room if we were allowed to see each other anymore. And
I will say it's all helping me rediscover myself because I am a good energy worker when I remember it.
Right. And
you
I'm
got
much
to
the
remember
same.
to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, the Muslim
After the car
tradition
accident,
is-
everything went to hell.
Mhm.
the Muslim tradition is that Adam's sin was that he forgot. And the path to redemption is the dhikr, or the remembering. And I'm learning a lot about myself that I supposedly should have known.
Hmm.
So,
If I
well,
can ever find a pendulum again or my things to make one,
mhm.
Well, actually,
But I-
your Feather Stitch, you're wearing one.
I
Use your
know.
Thor's hammer.
I know.
I
I'd have to
think in
take
the
it off
first-
this chain and put it on another one.
Oh, he's got it.
He found it.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
it's got the condor on it and the symbol of Inti, the sun god. So basically, they just use it to scrub it off, scrub you off after a ritual bath. Yeah, they do a ritual bath, and and cover people with flowers, pollens, and then they scrub them with a stick. And it's like that Brazilian ironwood, but it's that's the natural color out of it, from what I understand.
Yeah, whereas the stuff I've got is kind of a purplish gray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and extremely dense.
Yes, makes the stuff they make or used to make police batons out feel like balsa wood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used
This can work.
I had a blue beech staff, but it had multiple purposes besides that. It was really dense as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's your Thor's hammer then.
Yes.
It
And
actually would work.
I shouldn't fuss about having a pendulum because almost anything works for me. I found a
Right,
piece of lint that had a seed bead stuck in it, and I twisted up the lint into a string, and the seed bead worked as a pendulum.
Yeah.
So
Half the things I wear function as pendulums when I need them.
Yeah.
Right, and Feather Stitch is very definitely a natural pendulum worker, and given her personal connection to Thor, and the fact that she made that 6-link Byzantine chain,
Myself.
It's going to work very well.
Mhm.
I was going to say there is a
Well, as I
attunement
say,
there.
forged by California heathen blacksmiths.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I didn't do a very good job of directing the conversation, but it's been great fun. But it's time to get back to making our pies and things.
Or in our case,
And,
eating one, because
everybody
dinner is
have
a
a
quiche.
Have a wonderful day tomorrow, and
Yes, blessings to all of you.
and
Have a good
and
Thanksgiving.
we will see everybody again, or as many
A
people
great
as
deal of
possible.
my work has already been done at Whole Foods for us.
Wegmans for us.
Yeah,
Yes.
mostly cooking is heating. So
Yeah. I have gravy to make and stuffing to make, but beyond that,
I have to
Everything
get
else.
cranberry sauce out of the can.
well, of course,
That's
that is
the
one of
I
the
have to
most
boil down a
important
bag of
parts.
cranberries.
And I want us to save the cans. So when we
Okay.
make when I
Why?
make up our own, we can mold it in the shape of the can.
Oh, there you go. I'll buy into that.
Yeah, I have to go get my little turkey-shaped cranberry jelly dish from the attic.
I have a bunch of copper molds for jellies from the
Yeah.
from Sweden, from my family.
Well,
I'm going to head out. I need to eat.
Right,
But
and I
it's
think
time
we'll
to move
all
on.
say
Thank you all, and I'm sorry if Bill and I keep diverting.